Boss didn't pay me, so I started a company out of spite to put him out of business. The year was 2008 and I was 9 years into operating a landscape company. I had done moderately well for myself, being able to purchase a home, pay off student loans and start a family. I employed 4 people during the what I call work season, which for us is March through November. December through February we lay off our workers and go on hiatus for the most part. Side note, our company focused mainly on maintenance, and in the Pacific Northwest once all the leaves are picked up from the autumn there really isn't much maintenance to be done. I had that year developed a relationship with a home builder who hired me to care for his personal home and very much liked our work. He asked us to start bidding on installing the landscapes to the homes he built. Sounds easy, right? Well, remember, we focused mainly on maintenance, so my crew didn't have a ton of experience in the install detail of landscape, and the homes this guy built were not tract homes or your cookie-cutter type neighbors you find in the suburbs. No, a small home for him was 3,500 square feet on a 25k square foot lot, and an average size he developed was 8,500 to 10k square foot home with all the bells and whistles. He was more generous in his landscape budgets than many of the contractors I'd met, and we were off to what I had hoped would be great partnership. We finished the first 4 projects he handed us, and it was now the beginning of December when my maintenance side of things drops off. This home builder came to me and asked if I would like to keep my maintenance crew working for the winter working for him. I knew his next home project wasn't set to break ground till late January, so I asked what he had in mind. He told me that he and his son had been experimenting with spray foam insulation in their homes and had decided to invest into purchasing equipment to start their own company. To purchase the equipment on this level was about $100K. I said I would talk to the crew and get back to him. The next week we signed a contract to work with him for 3 months at a specified pay rate for 5 of us. He was confident he had enough work to keep us busy for the next 3 months. First job was insulating this incredible house for this plastic surgeon who spared no expense for the gadgets and material that he put into his home. Next was government buildings on Fort Lewis. Next was new apartment complexes, etc. etc. Now, this builder who I was friends with was not my day-to-day boss while insulating. It was his son, who is younger than I and a bit of a jerk. But we got along fine and all seemed well. The father owned the insulation company, but had very little to do with it on a day-to-day basis. Hardly saw him for 3 months. Now, being a contractor myself, I was used to not getting paychecks every 2 weeks like most working folks. I would get paid once a month from my maintenance accounts for the previous month of service, and it didn't all come in at once. Sometimes people forget to pay on time. My crew though was used to getting paid in a timely manner. And after the first month of work and receiving no check from my new boss, I inquired when to expect a check. He assured me that once the checks started rolling in that we would see our money. I totally get how that works, especially for a new company trying to get off the ground. So I paid my guys to keep the peace on my end, and my boss and I worked out an agreement that I would keep track of everything paid and that he would cut me a check once he was able to. I also had an outstanding landscape invoice out with the father of over 10K that I wasn't really worried about because he was not always super quick about payment. Not that I had to hound him about it, but you understand. Now we are at the end of February of 2009 and it was time to gear up for the new season of landscape maintenance and put my crew back to work outside. Still no payment from insulation or last landscape project. Things got ugly real fast as I started daily phone calls to the son now that we didn't see each other as often. I called the father, who more or less ignored me. The son stopped answering my calls / texts etc. The father never had a straight answer for me. Now mid-April of 2009. Most communication has stopped on their end. I filed a contractor's lien on the landscape project to be paid out before the house sold, which prompted a call from the father to invite me to his home for lunch and talk. I accepted, thinking he was going to offer me a deal of some kind, based on my past history with him. He basically told me that he had been over the years screwed out of money by different people and that it was something that I was going to have to learn to live with. My response: I've been screwed out of money that people owe me as well, just not by anyone I considered a friend. I left his house determined to stick it to him. May 5, 2009 I started a spray foam insulation company with the same level of equipment that he had but about a year less experience than he had. May 7th I get a call from the father asking a landscape question, acting as if we were on normal terms. My response was: oh, I don't landscape anymore, I spray foam. What are you talking about? He asked. When I explained to him that I was operating a spray foam insulation company, he ended the phone call rather quickly. I then receive a phone call from his son 5 minutes later, who had ignored my calls for the last many weeks, threatening me that he would destroy my hopes of making it as an insulator and that no little landscaper could/would make it in this community. Side note, with my newly formed company there was now approximately 4 to 5 companies in the Pacific Northwest performing this kind of service. It is a small circle of people in the insulation world and the word gets around pretty quick who does what, etc. Our very first job was handed to us by our material supplier, which happened to be his supplier, and that job was a fix. Apparently that very first job we had worked on, that plastic surgeon's house, was insulated incorrectly and poor workmanship. Luckily my only involvement on that house was prep work and clean up. We ended up removing all of the insulation and reinstalling it. About a $65K job which the owner of the house turned around and sued my old boss for and won. We then acquired the government contract at Fort Lewis that he had because of poor communication on his part. Anyway, we systematically took apart his company by being better and honest with people. The story spread, in the spray foam insulation world, and we became somewhat hero-like in this region because they had screwed so many people over. Oh, and at that time, if you might remember, the housing market took a giant dump, and guess who had 4 very large houses sitting out there that couldn't sell? Yep, the father, who ended up going bankrupt by mid-09. The son on the other hand kept his head above water somehow a bit longer. But in October of '09 I got a call from a reaper man asking if I knew the son and where to find his spray foam equipment. My father-in-law happened to be a retired cop and pie, and I put him on the case to find said equipment. 2 days later he called with the address and specific location of the equipment, which was behind a barn on an island with the tires aired down. I made the call to the repo man, and 2 hours later he called me from his lot as he was pulling in with a very large trailer behind his truck asking where he could send the bounty check. I kept the insulation business for about 3 years before being bought out by another company. I also kept the landscape company and still run it to this day. Moral to the story: landscapers may work in the dirt and seem simple, but piss one off and they will ruin you. Block my driveway? I'll go ahead and take your vehicles. Friday night here in the country can get a little crazy sometimes, so I don't mind when my neighbors cause a ruckus or loud party as long as it's not too crazy. Tonight I'm on call for Virginia State Police towing rotation, which means I've got 25 minutes to get to wherever the wreck DUI/impound/etc. is. As luck would have it, my neighbors are having a party, and guess what's blocking my driveway? That's right, about 25 to 30 cars. I live down a dirt road at the end of a cul-de-sac, and it's pretty narrow. 1 in 1 out type of deal, and with this rain we've been having, parking in the grass/clay/mud is really not the best idea. Even with a 4x4 it can still get tricky. I noticed a few cars coming in early this evening and walked over to my neighbors and made it pretty clear I was on call, and as long as they didn't block the road or my driveway all would be good. No problems here. Well, I get a call from my boss asking if I can go warm up the rotator and the light-duty flatbed tow trucks. It's about 12:30 a.m. so I get my boots on and other gear, because if I'm up I might as well stay at the shop and clean a few things to stay busy and make the night move along. I get in my car, and as I'm backing out of the driveway I notice I'm blocked in. I don't mean by one truck, but by nearly 15 different vehicles. I calmly walk over to my neighbors about a 1/8 mile hike, and as I'm looking for them through the crowd of drunk teenagers, some idiot wants to know why I'm on his property. He's not the property owner. I've never seen this classy gentleman. Finally, I find my neighbor and ask her if she can move the cars. I've got to go to work, she says in a normal tone, doesn't yell over the music. Into the house, whoever's blocking the driveway next door, move your trucks, then slams the door in my face. I knock again and she answers with a drunken, oh god, this bitch again? Internally I'm thinking, alright then. I do my best to explain, I'm on call and need to get out of my driveway to go to work. She comes back sloshing a natural light, exclaiming it's a party, relax. Shuts the door in my face and yells fuck that I cunt. I smile, and as I'm walking away, macho man throws a beer at me and cackles, yeah, you best leave, go on, kid. I get on the phone with dispatch and call for as many trucks as we have available tonight, about 10, and tell them to come on over. Mama's got some PPIs, private property impounds. I call police dispatch and ask if they'd send out an officer in case things get out of hand, and as soon as he gets to my place, my rigs start rolling up and hooking vehicles up and taking them to the impound yard. We get down to the last 3 vehicles. A yellow Civic, gold Silverado and old F-150. The Civic owner bolts to his car and takes off. The Silverado girl, pretty wasted, gets stuck and starts tearing up my property. Officer walks over and she throws a fit. Long story short, she gets arrested for underage drinking and DUI. The Ford owner doesn't show up. I get to work after all the impounds, and with me I brought coffees and snacks for my drivers. Tomorrow's not a business day, which means if these tools want their cars back, it's going to be the regular $289.50 plus 2 days of storage at $55 a day and a $100 gate fee. I make a note in every single storage sheet, papers that the vehicle owners get, to thank the girl who had the party for getting towed. Several of the kids' parents called wanting to know where their cars or trucks were. I gave them the yard address and told them they can come anytime. As soon as they started shouting about illegal tows and threatened with lawyers, I showed them pictures of their cars with no parking signs, and explained that I tried to reason with the owner of the property, me, but she was tired of being blocked in by drunken teenagers. There are signs on my road saying no parking, and not to block the driveway. Don't piss off a tow truck driver, she'll legally take your vehicles. Edit, the gate fee is only for after hours. It covers expenses of overtime for the office staff who have to get out of bed and come to work in the middle of the night. Also, how do I sleep at night? With a glass of chocolate milk while reading r/as credit. Comment, like and subscribe for more great content.